Our next speaker will be Dr. Sofia Khan. She is a Muslim community leader and the founder of KC for Refugees, a non-faith-based community alliance helping local refugee families in the greater Kansas City area since 2016. Since then, she and her organization have done hundreds of...
Islam, like many other faiths, is, if you will hear about, since I work in an interfaith alliance with KC for Refugees, let me tell you that the way we feel about helping others is no different than how a Baha'i or a Hindu or a Buddhist or a Sikh or Christian or Jewish person feels. Is all of our faiths call us upon helping the others, you know, whether it's human beings or God's other creation. Quran is full of verses where God tells us to help each other. And he also reminds us that if you were sitting in a corner and worshiping all day, or you just got up for a moment and just went out and helped your neighbor, or somebody you found even on just walking around and you found somebody in need, that is much better than just sitting in a corner and worshiping all day. Islam really focuses on charity. Everything you do is charity. Charity in our traditional terms mean giving money to somebody or some stuff, right? But that's not how Quran depicts it. Everything you do every day can be a form of charity. Even if you looked at somebody and smiled, that's charity. If you were walking on the street and you found a rock or a bush or a thorn on the street and you put it to the side with the intention that the next person might not see it and get hurt, that's a form of charity. If you see somebody in need and you help them with whichever manner, like they're hungry or they're... in my profession, since I'm a practicing physician, a lot of time I see people who are needing help with healthcare and they don't have the money to pay for it. Or someone might just call me, like the hundreds of refugees I see, they call me and say, hey, I don't got insurance, but my throat's hurting or my tooth is infected. Can you come have a look at me? I'll swing by on my way to work, flashlight, you know, get their phone number and call. To me, this is charity. To me, this is called from my faith to help the other. So this could be done in many, many different ways. There are many quotations from Quran and from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, his teachings about what you do for others, God will do that for you in return. If you're helping others when you're in the time of need, God will help you. God will help you also on the toughest day of our creation, which is the day of judgment. He says, if you help somebody here on this earth, God will help you on the day of judgment. Charity is something that is part and parcel of our faith, to the extent that Muslims are the biggest donors in all of this world. If you see donations just from the Muslim countries are about $10 billion as compared to $1 billion from the rest of the world. I know personally from my experience and working with many, many, many Muslim organizations that work across the world that we are big and very generous in giving charity. You know, if I need something, I just have to throw a text to 4 people, and the 5th person will actually be upset that they didn't get my text in time because I might need $2,000, $3,000 for someone's burial or someone's treatment or repair of their car, and the first 4 people will immediately pledge. This is what I'm used to in my Muslim faith. Extreme generosity in every manner. When I started doing, I'll kind of tie this to the story of KC for Refugees. So when I first moved to Kansas City, I immediately started, I was a newlywed, a young mother, husband in residency, got pregnant right away, back to back to back, had 5 kids. But even during that time, I was constantly looking for local people in Kansas City I could help in any manner possible, and I met this nice guy who, one of my friends told me he helps refugees. And he was the one who told me refugees are being settled in Kansas City. It was always something close to my heart, because to me, someone who comes in this country, well, they have lost their hometown, their life, their friends, their family, and comes in empty-handed. Who can be more deserving of your help than a person like that? So I started just giving money and donations to different refugee communities as he would come and just give us a list of things he needed, or I had a list of stuff I wanted to give him. That's how this journey started. And then very soon, 7 years later, I moved to Leeward from Lee Summit and found out of more projects as my kids got older. I was a little bit, had more time on my hand. I started physically getting involved. So if someone needed something, if someone needed food, I said, I'm going to buy it and go visit the family with you because I want to personally get attached. I'm just not going to throw the donation in. I want to know these people. I want to get to know them. And that's how I started getting more and more engaged. And during this process, I met the refugee resettlement director of Del Alam, Abdul Bakar, who happens to be a Somali prior refugee himself, but he had slowly risen to the position of refugee resettlement director there. And he started connecting me. He said, these refugees really need your community support. I'm a beggar in chief. I don't mind asking anybody for money, because it's for my refugees. So I started doing a lot of fundraising and collecting money and needs for people. So he said, just let me introduce you to the families in need. So I would go there, introduce myself as a Kansas City neighbor. I said, welcome to my city. We'd love to have you here. And we want to make your journey easy. What can I do for you? That's how I would always start. They would tell me, my TV isn't working, my kids don't have shoes, blah, blah, blah. I would make a whole list, go back, collect those things, come back with me and my friends, our SUVs full of stuff in the back, and just distribute it to usually 10 families at a time. This was about 15 years ago. Fast forward 7 years, Syrian refugees came in the last year of President Obama's presidency. He brought in about 5,000 Syrians, and we happened to be the city that was honored by having the first Syrian family from those, 10,000 people he brought in this last year. The first family came to Kansas City, and that family, when they came, I got a call from the director of Del Alam, Judy, and she called me and said, we need support for this family. You do so much, can you help me help this family? So I wanted to expand my horizon outside the Muslim community, and I had just joined an interfaith dinner group with through Dialogue Institute with St. Andrew's Church off of Flum and Lenexa, and had made some dear friends over there. We used to kind of rotate each other's house and have dinners. And when I told him about my interest in refugees, he was very intrigued. He said, I've been wanting to help them, and my church does too. Can I go visit families with you? And I said, you never say these things to me, because I'll actually take you to their houses. So 3 days later, me and Greg are at the house of a family, and we are visiting them, and he was so fascinated. And then comes this call from Judy asking for help for the Syrian. Who's the first person I call? Not my Muslim friends. I call Greg. I say, hey Greg, you said your church wanted to help. I want to make this an interfaith effort, because in my heart I know Muslims, Jews, Christians, all the faiths are humanitarian people. They want to do things for other human beings, not just for their own faith, but for everyone. And I want to create a large group. And that's when I also called every person on Greater Kansas City Interfaith Council's website and started collecting more and more different faith leaders to join me. And I had coffee with a lot of people, 50 coffees within like 2-3 weeks, and started gathering this big alliance of all different kinds of faith, and made a group of not just people who are faith followers, but even my strongest supporters were from the atheist community. They were also humanitarians. And so we created this beautiful alliance of community leaders who sat together and figured out ways as community members of how can we help the refugees. To help the refugees, and I'm going to now stick with just the term refugee. We were just talking about it before the panel started, the difference between refugees and asylum seekers and SIVs and humanitarian parole. All of us in this room are pretty much similar, right? We are all human beings. We all have one heart, 4 limbs, right? 2 eyes. But some of us are labeled with certain names based on our status in the United States. And that's the difference between all these labels, whether you're asylum seeker, asylum guaranteed, humanitarian parole. So initially the group I was working with, because I was working a lot with JBS and Del Alam, was just refugees. And so we started our journey of KC for Refugees with the community, knowing that The refugee resettlement program in America supports them only for the first 90 days. And during these 90 days, they're all expected to be fluent in English, have stable jobs, kids in school, able to pay their rent, able to pay their utility, and it's adios from there. Which we know as people that this is not practical. It doesn't work like that. They sometimes, within the first couple of years, are sometimes going through several jobs. Some of them have health problems within their family members and they can't keep up a stable job. They have doctor's appointments, things like that. So that's where we came in as KC for Refugees. We held their hand as they were our new neighbors. We were their new friends for life. We're going to be your friends for life. Somebody you can always call on and say, I got this paper from the kids' school, I don't know what it means. Social worker said I'm off their list now, what do I do? Well, I'll come over and let's look at it together. So that's basically what KC for Refugees is. Over these last 7 years since we established ourselves as a nonprofit, we have 100% worked as pure volunteers, not a single employed position. And we have proudly helped thousands and thousands of people. We have been mentors to them, we have been social workers for them, we have been driving them around, we have been finding them probably $500,000, if not more, of donations that were just handed from the donors directly to those families. And that organization is for all of you. You are all part of it. If you're part of this community and you care about the refugees, you are part of KC for Refugees, because we just finally got our first grant to hire our first part-time contract workers. So for the past 7 years, this is what we do. And we are blessed to be connected with all the religions, and our board being made of Buddhists, Baha'is, atheists, Jews, Hindus, all the religions are part of our board of trustees. So I can go on and on. As you can tell, I'm really passionate about this stuff. But I'm actually a full-time physician and a mother of 5, so that's my also other full-time job. I'll be here. If you have any further questions, I'll get off and give other speakers a chance. Thank you.